Hello all, this is Professor Luce, and we're going to talk about Part 7, which is chapters 22 through 26. So today I am going to focus on the informative speech, even though the chapters do cover more than that. I will briefly talk about persuasion and special occasion, but we will visit those later on in the semester. So they kind of all go together because that's how the textbook was written, but it's important to at least understand those parts, but I realize that with the informative speech coming up, you're probably going to focus on that material anyways. So there's different ways to write your informative speech, and the big way you're going to focus on it with our assignment is to focus on teaching the audience something new. There are different ways that you can do this, of course, like you can increase their understanding, you can try to reduce confusion, but for the most part, you're going to be focusing on introducing brand new information to your audience. And you'll remember from previous chapters, we talked about different approaches. Some of them might be chronological, some of them could potentially be spatial, some of them may be topical. It's up to you to decide the best way to organize your speech, and I have a feeling a lot of you will end up going with chronological or topical because those are the two most common for the informative speech. Make sure that you're reviewing the PowerPoint that is included in the D2L news item. The reason for that is that there are two sample videos also included of an informative speech. One is an A level and one would be a failing level speech. They're the same topic. They are the same person. However, they are dramatically different in terms of how much content is there, the type of content that's included, sources that are utilized or not utilized, and the delivery is going to be different as well. So make sure that you watch both of those speeches to get an idea of the significant differences that occur between A level and an F level speech. Additionally, if you haven't done so already, in the same area where you find the informative assignment sheet, you'll also see the informative grade sheet. I think it's important to check out those concepts so that way you know exactly how you'll be evaluated. Realize that the points do go up from 50 to 100 points, so the informative speech is worth double what the original speech was, the annual bag speech, and it's going to be more difficult. There are new concepts introduced, things like you must include sources, your relevance statement. Those are all included in the grade sheet, so you know exactly what the evaluation criterion are going to be. If you have any questions about those criterion, of course, you're always welcome to ask at any point in time. What's important with the informative speech is that you start with a clear structure, and really you should be letting your TED Talk or your podcast give you some of those main ideas. You don't need to come up with them on your own. That's the point of you basing your topic on that podcast or TED Talk, is that they've done some of the hard work for you. They said there's this big topic, and what's really important are these 2 to 5 things to know about that topic. Now, you don't need to repeat exactly what they said. Instead, take those 2 to 5 main ideas and then find outside sources that basically confirm what they're saying. Maybe some of those sources will add to it. Maybe you do find something else that, you know what, they provided 4 really good main ideas, and you're going to take 2 of them, and then you found this 3rd or 4th main idea that you want to bring in from another source as well. Think about something as simple as how to make a pizza. You wouldn't use this for your informative speech topic, but there are zillions of different ways to make a pizza. You could talk about crust and what types of crust. You have thin crust, you have deep dish, you have hand rolled, you have stuffed crust, right? Any TED Talk you were to visit on how to make a pizza isn't going to talk about all of them. It's probably going to talk about one specific way. If you want to talk about other methods, that's perfectly fine. Then you talk about different types of sauces, different types of toppings, different types of cheeses. Not even mentioning different ways to bake a pizza, whether it's stone or over a fire or regular as in an oven, right? You have lots of different options to choose from. So something as simple as how to make a pizza, you can make it your own depending on what you want to include in that speech and what you feel is most important for your audience to know. You're going to have to make that determination based on the research that you find. So it's really important that you're bringing all new information into this. It shouldn't be a biography of Oprah Winfrey. We already know who Oprah is. We have a pretty good idea of what her life has been like so far, so that's not going to add a whole lot of new information. But let's say you want to take an old topic like how to make ramen, and you're going to change it to how to make 3 gourmet ramen meals on a college budget. Now, that would be something that would be unique and adding to the information that your audience already likely has. So there's definitely ways to go about the informative speech in which you get really creative and make sure that your audience is learning something new and valuable by the end of it. I mentioned this before, but it's absolutely critical that you are not addressing a problem based on your topic. That makes it persuasive. That was in last week's lecture video, and it's going to be in this week's as well. So make sure your topics are not persuasive. That means if you're talking about a problem, you are using persuasion. So avoid those at all costs. Instead of thinking about, here's this really bad thing that I want you to know about, think about things that are useful or things that are just interesting. So useful information might be like recipes or a new idea that can help save you money or ways to make your life easier. Something that's interesting, we as Americans often find serial killers interesting, unsolved mysteries that are out there, we find those interesting, new technology that's coming in medicine that can make our lives better, that might be interesting. New scientific discoveries are things that we find interesting. If you think about those two categories and those two objectives, that falls into informative speaking. When you start thinking about, well, here's this really bad thing that's happening and you should pay attention to it, that becomes persuasive, and that's what you need to avoid for the informative speech. Make sure that you watch the PowerPoint. I can't possibly cover everything that's in there in verbal format. That's why there is a written format, so make sure that you watch the PowerPoint over these chapters as well. Thank you all.